Welcome to A Line Through Time, where I take the time to look through your favourite franchises and work out how it all lines up. From July 1994 to August 1995, Malibu Comics produced a line of Mortal Kombat comics. Across 16 issues, they loosely adapted MK1 and 2 with a bunch of original characters, lore details and characterizations that you'd never see now that the game setting is more fleshed out. This is very much the Archie Sonic of the MK franchise, and I'm here to explain its timeline and some of its bizarre story ideas. The series can be split into two seasons, each consisting of a 6-issue miniseries, a tournament edition issue to cap things off, a 3-issue side series, and some extras. Season 1 centres on the tournament. We have Blood and Thunder as our main 6-issue mini. There's also an issue 0 that introduces the fighters in an altercation with Scorpion on the boat to the island. It doesn't fit with how issue 1 depicts things and doesn't feature Hydro or Sparky, so I think it's non-canon. Likewise, the comic from the Mortal Kombat Superbook by Brady Games is non-canon, following a kid getting sucked into an MK2 machine and getting tormented by Raiden. The story of Blood and Thunder centres on a book called the Tao Te Ching, which will grant godly power to the one who solves its 7 riddles, or more accurately, the 7th of them. Shang Tsung plans to unlock its power during the tournament to usurp Shao Kahn. After the first round, Kano steals the book and the Earthrealmers are attacked by Goro. He vanishes suddenly, setting the stage for the Goro Prince of Pain mini. The Earthrealmers are stranded in Outworld. Scorpion kills Hydro in a fight, while Johnny and Sonya meet a Sonya doppelganger named Ainos. She just randomly exists, and I guess it's just a coincidence that they look so alike and have the same name but backwards. Then Scorpion ambushes Kano and Liu Kang, and the book begins exchanging hands frequently, different characters solving different riddles, bringing us closer to the completion of the book's puzzle. Kano literally stabs Liu Kang in the back, but he's saved by Kung Lao. This is particularly relevant because he's recovered by the next issue, while the intervening time is briefly depicted in Prince of Pain 2. So I guess we should talk about Goro's side quest now. He gets wrapped up in the conflict between Zagat and Abacus, brother gods of chaos and order respectively. Meanwhile, Shang tasks MK2's Outworld newcomers to find Goro, while Jax and Kung Lao also end up in Outworld. Zagat unleashes the Combatant, a warrior with the powers of all the MK1 fighters, on Goro. Goro destroys it with a laser cannon provided by Abacus. Yes, really. And after an altercation between Goro, Jax and the 4 Outworlders, all but Goro are teleported to Shang Tsung's island, leaving Goro to have his final confrontation with Zagat. Showing more intellect than most iterations, Goro refuses to fight Zagat, as conflict is a form of chaos, so he can weaken Zagat by not fighting back. Once Zagat is bested, Goro is sent back to the island. Around this time in the main mini, the contestants reconvene and fight over the book, with a nice moment between Johnny and Raiden, where the latter convinces the former that taking the book's power would be cheating his way to the top, which goes against Johnny's desire to prove his skills are legit, so he hands the book over. Shao then teleports both games cast to the island to duke it out in Tournament Edition 1. Everyone pairs up into MK1 vs MK2 matchups. Some are unusual, like Kitana vs Scorpion, but others are kinda standard nowadays, like the first ever Sonya vs Mileena fight. Not a lot of actual story happens, but one highlight is when Johnny fights Baraka. Not only does the nut punch not hurt Baraka with an obvious implication, but the fight leads them up to where Shang Tsung is. The two, offended at being called cretins by him, team up on him. Ultimately, Goro completes the final riddle, what belongs to you but others use it more than you do. The answer being your name, which is ironic in a comic where most of the cast refer to themselves in the third person all the time, Goro especially. He gets a generic strength power-up that lets him demolish everyone, until Shang and Raiden team up to stop him, 3 pages after he gets the power. That's what all the build-up was for. And finally we have the US Special Forces 2-issue mini that takes place between the 2 seasons, and features a cast of characters with a range of powers that feel a bit out of place for what should be the more grounded faction at this point in the narrative. The most relevant part of this is that Kano escapes custody in a backup story to lead into Season 2. Season 2 is told primarily through Battle Wave. During the first issue, Raiden finds Kano after the latter survives a failed murder attempt by the Black Dragon to take part in the Raiden and Kano 3-parter. Amidst assaults on Earth's fighters from Outworld forces, Kitana forms an anti-Khan alliance in secret, consisting of Kung Lao, Baraka, and Bi-Han, who survive the tournament and remain Sub-Zero for the rest of the series. Reptile learns of the treachery in issue 2, but is forced to reveal intel about Shao's plans, in particular that Scorpion is working for him and raising an army of the dead with the Death Stone. He informs Shao of the treachery in issue 3, right around the time Sub-Zero leaves the group to go after Scorpion alone. These details are important for lining everything up. See, Reptile plays a recurring role in Raiden and Kano, working to impede the two's plans and reporting his progress to Shao throughout. It makes the most sense for the mini to occur after he informs Shao of Kitana's treachery, freeing him up for this task, but before Battle Wave 4, which which both series assure us occurs soon after Raiden and Kano ends. But what is Raiden and Kano even about? Essentially, Raiden needs Kano's help to wield a sword named Ebenrule, once used by an evil man turning his back on evil to slay an ancient emperor of Outworld named Daxon, the Black Dragon. He offers Kano the chance to redeem himself by doing what Khan once did and kill Shao Kahn. Yes, this does sound an awful lot like Datusha and Onaga, doesn't it? Weird that. It turns out Kano made a deal with Shao at some point and hands over the blade in return for power. Kano uses that power to fight Raiden, and both seem kinda sad that Kano threw away his chance at redemption, but it's left ambiguous whether or not Kano then throwing Raiden out of Outworld before Khan can kill the weakened Thunder God is a mistake, or him repaying Raiden's trust. Raiden then returns to the main series in issue 4, saving Johnny and Jax when Jade and Smoke try to crash their plane. Because those two had no story at this point, so they're just villains. Liu Kang is also making his way to Outworld, while Sonya has been captured by Kintaro, and Reptile and Mileena are free to stop her from escaping now that Raiden and Kano is over. Kano next appears in issue 5, observing while Reptile hypnotizes Sonya to marry Shao Kahn because the union would allow him to cross the dimensional barrier, which does surprisingly make sense. It's like a weird alternate take on the Sindel stuff from MK3. Liu Kang meets up with Raiden's group during a fight with Xiang. Xiang is the main chosen fighter of the Shaolin from Blood and Thunder, a fusion of two brothers, Sing and Sang. Sang died in the tournament, and Sing permanently fused with him to keep him alive, but this means Xiang is half dead, allowing Scorpion to control him with the Death Stone. He joins the heroes as they head for the palace. Around this time, Kintaro ambushes Sub-Zero and captures him. This, surprisingly, amounts to nothing. Battle Wave's final issue is the wedding of Shao and Sonya, officiated by the restored Shang Tsung. Liu Kang leads the charge, the heroes making light work of Shao's forces, and then Kitana and her group enter. This is the point where we should discuss the side material about Kitana's group before we close out Battle Wave. Rather than a two-parter like last time, the side material this season consists of 3 one-shots for specific characters. Baraka picks up right after Sub-Zero departs to hunt Scorpion in Battle Wave 3. Baraka also leaves, and he himself has a run-in with Scorpion, so it must come before Scorpion returns to Shao's palace for issue 5, so parallel to issue 4. This issue is also the only appearance of Noob Saibot, who comes to aid Baraka in saving a mysterious mutant baby from Scorpion, who Noob says will play a key role in Outworld's future. Bear in mind, this issue came out 9 years before Noob was revealed as Bi-Han, so the two are separate characters in this universe. He remains a pure enigma in Malibu because the series ended before it could adapt MK3 and continue this plotline. Kung Lao comes next. By this point, Kitana's group has all split up. Lao has a vision quest that reveals to him that Kitana's plans have been exposed, which means this has to occur before she openly opposes Shao in issue 6. And with Shang Tsung as the antagonist, he needs time to get back to the palace and pretend this issue never happened, so this is before his reveal at the end of issue 5, meaning it's also in parallel with issue 4. Shang poses as Lao's allies to try and deceive him, but it fails. So he morphs into the Great Kung Lao, which allows the former champion to take control of Shang's body and leave an opening for his descendant to best him and free his soul. This is the only version of Kung Lao to ever free his ancestor, by the way, although I guess the Shaolin Monks version can do it. And finally, Kitana and Mileena depicts Kitana regaining her true memories of Shao's coup against Jared and Sindel and learns of Mileena's true nature, only to have her memories altered again, while Mileena secretly retains that knowledge. Kitana goes from serving Khan in Prince of Pain, to fighting Scorpion in TE1, to plotting a rebellion in Battle Wave 1. She makes a bunch of loyal declarations regarding Shao in Prince of Pain with no indication that she's faking it, but Mileena calls herself the true daughter of Shao Kahn in TE1 and Battle Wave 1, suggesting she already knows. I think it's safe to say this issue is set long before Blood and Thunder. And if you only read a single issue from this entire line, I recommend this one. It actually has good art, and the story is a neat look into how the whole Outworld/Edenia thing was seen back in '95. Honestly, these 3 one-shots are probably the best issues of the run and suggest the writing was getting better by this point, right as the series was ending. Speaking of ending the series, Sonya just snaps out of the trance on her own. Maybe it's Reptile's concentration breaking from getting mollywopped by Jax. Either way, when she attacks Khan, he takes her words as a challenge, splitting those gathered into 2 sides for a contest, highlighting how different things were back then compared to now. Bi-Han as a good guy and Scorpion as a bad guy, Jade and Human Smoke as bad guys, Baraka as a good guy in MK2. Also, the main man Bo is here. Don't worry about him, he's Liu Kang's bodyguard hired by Johnny earlier this season. He's great. The contest is depicted in Tournament Edition 2. But before that, Battle Wave 6 has a backup story called Every Dog Has Its Day, centered on Johnny and Sonya working on a movie together. With Battle Wave leading directly into TE2, this can't occur here. It's either between seasons or after TE2, which is where the series at large ends. It's hard to say, but Sonya says, "I appreciate everything you've tried to do for me" at the end of the backup, which I think works better after she got him wrapped up in Outworld stuff this season, which she brings up herself in TE2, and him helping to crash her wedding with Shao, so I'm putting it at the very end. And thus, the story comes to an end with Tournament Edition 2. The two sides are deposited in Outworld and have to retrieve a medallion to win. Baraka randomly turns traitor and gives Jax a reason to get metal arms in MK3. Raiden sacrifices himself to deal with an ambush, likely to explain why he's not on MK3's roster. But wow, Tournament Edition, Raiden and Shang Tsung working together to defeat a more powerful foe, Raiden's self-sacrifice, Kitana's memories being altered, the conflict between order and chaos, a blade made for redemption, a past Dragon Emperor. The 3D era really like to pull from Malibu, eh? Scorpion kills Xiang, Liu Kang is thrown off a cliff but Johnny assures us he'll survive, and Sub-Zero reaches the medallion. He bests Goro, and as he goes to retrieve it, Scorpion appears. Bihan places the mission over his personal beef with Scorpion, turning his back on his foe and declaring that attacking Bihan now would be dishonourable. Scorpion doesn't hesitate to immolate him, but Bihan manages to grab the medallion in his final moments, securing victory for Earthrealm. We close out the series with Shao Kahn assuring us that he has a final plan in place, while a group of Lin Kuei, including that one guy a lot of people mistake for Hydro despite him being long dead, are attacked by Kuai Liang for being corrupt, declaring himself the new Sub-Zero. And with that, Season 2 and Malibu MK at large comes to an end. Malibu was acquired by Marvel Comics during the Blood and Thunder run, so I think WB would have to negotiate with Marvel/Disney if they ever wanted these to be reprinted or re-released on digital. Doubt it'll happen. So the chronological order of Malibu Mortal Kombat goes like this. Kitana and Mileena sometime in the past. Blood and Thunder 1-3, where Goro disappears for Prince of Pain 1. Blood and Thunder 4, then 5, where Kano stabs Liu Kang and is seen being protected by Kung Lao in Prince of Pain 2. Blood and Thunder 6 and Prince of Pain 3 occur simultaneously, as shown by the teleportation of the MK2 cast towards the end of both. Tournament Edition 1 caps off the story. US Special Forces 1-2 come before we move on to MK2. Battle Wave 1-3, where Reptile spies on Kitana. He can then move on to trying to stop Raiden and Kano, right as Kitana's group splits up for Baraka and Kung Lao to run alongside Raiden's return in Battle Wave 4, then Battle Wave 5 and 6. Tournament Edition 2, and then Sonya joins Johnny for Every Dog Has Its Day to repay him for all the trouble she's caused him this season. And then they fuck. And their daughter is joined by Nania as one of the combat kids in Season 8. The comic is very 90s in its style, particularly with the art, but this isn't a bad series at all, and even has some cool new ideas that expand the setting and characters in a way that is totally unique to this version. At least until the 3D era stole all their best ideas, save for Bo and Wind and Rain. Those are the kinds of faces that should have made the M1K cameo roster, not main roster characters and fucking Farah. If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? You get early access to new videos for just $1 a month. If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. Today's recommended video is I Read Every Mortal Kombat Comic So You Don't Have To by The Flick and the Frame. It covers the canon stuff as well as the Malibu series.